Good morning. I'm Stan Harris, President and CEO of Louisiana Restaurant Association, and thank you for joining us for the first edition of LRA Today, a time-sensitive update on the areas of priority for the LRA and this industry. Each day, the LRA team fields calls, solves problems, and facilitates relationships to support you in becoming better operators, building profits, and success. We're your advocates at the state and local level, and with our partnership with the National Restaurant Association, are closely tracking opportunities at the federal level as we push Congress to consider new options to keep our industry going. Much of the advocacy work is unscheduled or happens on an ad hoc basis. It can be early in the morning, on the weekend, or late in the evening. Having access to those key people in our regulatory, legislative, or the executive branches of government allows us to better assist you when the need arises. During today's presentation, if you have a question, please enter it in the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen, and time allowing, we'll get to them at the end of our program. You can also email communications@lra.org anytime, and we'll get you to the right person on the LRA team. If you were thinking this year's presidential election was going to be the same old, then last night's debate probably disrupted your thinking. During the telecast, both President Trump and former VP Biden sought to convince you why they're the best choice. But Mr. Biden has made his positions very clear. In a Biden administration, he'll support a $15 minimum wage, elimination of the tip credit, and employer-funded family and sick leave programs. This would be disruptive to our industry. Businesses have the ability to offer many programs and income opportunities. When government mandates it, it usually comes with unintended consequences. We have a lot of ground to cover with you today. So first, I'll discuss the current information that we're hearing related to another round of economic relief and stimulus from Congress. Specifically, what we've heard about the House Democratic relief proposal, and as promised, a little insight on the upcoming election. Next, we'll discuss the latest national survey of the restaurant industry and share with you updates on our member-focused LRA programs. We'll wrap up with a new knowledge-based program our LRA team is rolling out beginning October 14th. This new how-to approach can help you or your team expand its knowledge on building a resilient business. So let's get rolling. For the quick update on the action in Washington, one of our NRA political consultants, Bruce Melman, each quarter produces a great infographic on the current political situation. If you'd like the entire package of 30+ slides, drop us a line at communications@lra.org. Bruce is a longtime DC insider, and we hope you'll find his historical approach to future decisions to be insightful, or at the very least, thought-provoking. Just a quick thought. Since 1900, there have been only 3 other years that experience what he refers to as super disruptors, comprised of a recession, a pandemic, mass protests, and an intense national election. 2020 has all 4. Let that sink in for a moment. If we've not seen enough, we now face a national election with more external challenges than at any time in the last 120 years. As we approach the 7-month mark since the first COVID shutdown and the stay-at-home order, we prepared a timeline of the federal relief bills to refresh our memories. On the overall operation of the government, earlier this month, the House passed a concurrent resolution to keep the federal government running through December 11th. The Senate is expected to pass it later today, and the President has indicated that he'll sign it. It's sad that our federal leaders continue to use the continuing resolution process and will not pass an annual budget. You can't run your business that way, but you also don't have the ability to print money should you need it. As we discuss the next round of federal relief options, both chambers support more relief, but the price tag and what is included is where the issues reside. And remember, to provide this stimulus package requires further borrowing, adding to the country's debt. During the summer, discussions between the House Democratic leaders and the White House sought common ground to narrow the divide in their approaches. The White House proposed spending around $1.5 trillion, and the congressional Democrats suggested $3.2 trillion. The first CARES Act, as a reference, was $3.3 trillion. Early in September, Senate leadership floated a skinny relief bill valued at $500 billion, but it needed Democratic support to reach the 60-vote Senate threshold needed to call for a vote, and it died. The House passed the HEROES Act earlier in the summer, and it hasn't had any traction since. But in an effort to continue the negotiations, the House leadership introduced the fourth COVID-19 federal relief package, which is an updated version of the HEROES Act with a reduced cost to $2.2 trillion. The package includes a $120 billion restaurant recovery fund that would help many except franchisees of chain operations, a second round of payroll protection funding to assist struggling businesses, including the restaurant industry. However, the rules and forgiveness have more clarity in this round, so we won't be borrowing the money and thinking about how we get forgiveness in the future. It also includes a second round of economic stimulus payments of $1,200 per taxpayer and $500 a dependent, and provides an additional incentive to employers to maintain employment by enhancing the Employee Retention Tax Credit, or ERTC. Lastly, it extends the $600 per week supplemental unemployment payments through January 2021. If you'd like a copy of our two-page recap of the legislation, shoot us an email or check the LRA website where we'll have it where you can download the document. In partnership with the National Restaurant Association, the LRA has conducted 4 surveys since the pandemic began. Here are a few key findings in that September survey. It revealed that 95% of Louisiana restaurant operators say their total sales dollar volume in August was lower than it was a year ago. Overall sales were down 47% on average for the same period in 2019. 26% of respondents say business conditions were worse in August than they were in July. 12% said business conditions improved. I'd like to know who those folks are. 60% noted they don't expect their restaurant sales to return to pre-COVID levels within the next 6 months. And not surprisingly, 34% said it's unlikely their restaurant will still be in business in 6 months from now if business continues and not improve the conditions. Additionally, a larger number, 43% of respondents, note it's unlikely their restaurant can stay in operation 6 months from now if there's no additional relief package from the federal government. Sobering responses, to say the least. Last Friday, Melvin Rodriguez, past LRA chair and current National Restaurant Association chair, who also serves as the president and CEO of Galatoire's restaurant in the French Quarter, testified before the U.S. House Ways and Means Subcommittee. The hearing focused on restaurants in America during the pandemic. Melvin's testimony and responses to the committee members' questions made several things abundantly clear. 1 in 6 restaurants in the country have closed, and without a second round of Payroll Protection Program, or PPP funding, that number will continue to climb. And with those closings go millions of jobs. Currently, 7 million restaurant employees in our country are unemployed. In Louisiana, as of August, leisure and hospitality employment is 46,200 people less than 2019. And in New Orleans, that number is a staggering 30,500 people less. As of August 31st, total continuing unemployment claims statewide was at 250,244, compared to a previous height of 205,000 in the month following Hurricanes Katrina and Rita in 2005. Regarding the employment question from our most recent survey, 35% of Louisiana restaurant operators say they plan to add more employees during the next 30 days, while an almost equal number at 31% said they anticipate laying off or furloughing more employees during the same time. 38% of operators do not expect their staffing to return to pre-COVID levels within the next 6 months. On to a legislative update, including unemployment compensation. As you're aware, if you had to lay off or furlough team members with the hopes of rehiring them at some point, the second round of unemployment stimulus through FEMA that provided an additional $300 per week ended in early September. Perhaps your staff has started calling you, and we certainly are starting to hear from LRA members as a result. Before COVID, Louisiana's Unemployment Trust Fund had over $1 billion in it as a reserve. Finding an option to replenish this critical funding is one of the focuses of this legislative special session that began Monday evening. The current options available were developed with the same type of tragedy from Hurricane Katrina. Once Louisiana Unemployment Trust Fund drops below $100 million, which it's teetering at today, the options include a loan from the federal government, but for its repayment, the benefit payments per week would drop from $247 to $221, and it would require an increased payroll tax on employers at a time where that is really unreasonable. Neither of these solutions are optimal, so the legislature will consider moving some of the CARES Act funding the state has already received to the Unemployment Trust Fund. Other key items the LRA is focused on are a few bills that propose providing refunds or waivers for alcohol permits for bars and the possibility of the same treatment for LDH food service establishment permits. These were proposed by LRA member and owner of Lucky Dogs, Senator Kirk Talbot, and an additional measure filed by Senator Stuart Cathy Jr. A House bill by Representative Bo Boyer offers relief in the form of a tax credit equal to the LDH permit fees. With the budget stress, we expect if the legislature passes these bills, it's doubtful Governor Edwards would sign them into law. However, we're going to continue to work them through the process. Senate President Page Cortez has a bill that would limit a governor's power to declare a statewide emergency to a term of 30 days without seeking input from the legislature. This morning in the House Governmental Affairs Committee, there are over 6 bills that seek to do the same thing on the House side of the equation. I want to thank the legislature for helping provide clarity with statutes to protect businesses operating during the COVID crisis. Senate Bill 508 by Senator Patrick McMath and Representative Rick Edmonds provides a liability shield for restaurants who operate during the time of the governor's emergency order. No guest can seek damages or allege they contracted COVID-19 on their premises if the restaurants follow the state's Open Safely guidelines. Also, House Bill 826 by Representative Thomas Presley provides relief to a broader list of businesses, and both were signed into law. And our legislature created the Main Street Recovery Program that can reimburse up to $15,000 in expenses due to COVID for businesses who apply. Over 40,000 businesses have applied to date, and this program has ceased accepting any new applications as of yesterday. Governor Edwards has proposed moving $175 million of the $275 million given to the Main Street Recovery Program to replenish the Unemployment Insurance Trust, provide financial aid to help local governments affected by the pandemic, and assist businesses that will remain closed, such as bars. We expect this proposal will be subject to a great deal of negotiation. The LRA is working on 2 bills that will seek to provide CARES Act dollars to provide funding for tourism promotion statewide. In 2005, the state gave $28 million to the predecessor of New Orleans and Company and $10 million to the Office of Tourism to support local convention and visitor bureaus. None of these groups could apply for PPP or SBA relief. An immediate push to marketing and advertising will attract leisure visitors from within the 4-hour driving range and those who are willing to take a one-hop flight. An additional bill would provide funding for supplemental police patrols for the French Quarter by directing dollars to the French Quarter Management District, a state entity. And lastly, we're supporting a bill to request almost $8 million of immediate relief and grants to businesses shuttered in the French Quarter in coordination with FQMD and the New Orleans City Council. Over the last 6 months, the LRA team and I have worked diligently to navigate this crisis on your behalf. I've served as co-chair of the Resilient Louisiana Commission Task Force on Restaurants that Governor Edwards organized, and was a member of the Legislative Economic Recovery Task Force so that our industry concerns, ideas, and options would be heard and considered. Advocacy is not just related to supporting or opposing a bill or an ordinance. A great deal of what we do is working with our elected officials or regulators as they consider policy options that could affect the industry. Over the past 6 to 8 weeks, as our positivity rates and case counts were dropping, we continued our outreach to the governor and his senior team to propose the reopening of bars and how this could be accomplished. As you can imagine, the Department of Health was opposed to any reopening in any manner, and that's not a surprise. The early closing time with parishes opting in if they met certain criteria was one of the options we proposed and ultimately guided part of the reopening guidelines provided for bars. Additionally, we brought together a meeting of 6 LRA members with Governor Edwards the morning of the state was tracking Hurricane Sally from the GOSEP Emergency Operations Center that led to the governor updating his order to provide for the sale of alcohol until 11 p.m. for on-premise consumption. You'll note this quote from the governor that he released to the media. After ongoing discussions with the New Orleans mayor, Mayor Cantrell, late last Thursday, after our efforts resulted in allowing restaurants to return to providing to-go alcohol service effective at 5 p.m. last Friday. We've asked the mayor to provide a timeline of the goalposts necessary for bars to return to operating and for the parish to move to phase 3, similar to the balance of the state. We know that our bar members have faced the most restrictions, and we're advocating for them every day to be able to reopen their businesses. Many of you have asked, what more can we do to make the government help restaurants, bars, caterers, event venues, and tourism in general? It's simple. Keep answering our grassroots call to action. It's a link to a tool that requires only your address and zip code to develop a text message to your member of Congress and both Louisiana U.S. senators. When constituents share their wishes and concerns directly with their elected officials, it's extremely beneficial to the outcomes we need for the industry. Prior to COVID-19, our largest grassroots activation was just over 50,000 messages. On the CARES Act flexibility legislation, we pushed over 500,000 messages, resulting in overwhelming bipartisan support. On yesterday's call with our national advocacy team, who's working this new package of legislation, they reminded us to ask you to continue the outreach to your Congress member and to your senators to remind them that restaurants and bars and hospitality-focused businesses need another round of help. It's hard to use 8 weeks of money from the original PPP program to support 6 months of crisis. And when you see your local officials or state legislators in your business, remind them of the jobs you create and fund, the taxes you collect, and the property tax you remit to support the local government. I reminded several of our mayors and legislators and the governor that closed businesses find it hard to pay property taxes, and most local governments live off of property taxes they collect at the end of the year. Keeping restaurants, bars, and hospitality-focused business front of mind helps strengthen our advocacy efforts. Now, a brief update on the LRA's Self-Insurers Fund. One of your best benefits of LRA membership is our Self-Insurers Fund for workers' compensation. In our 38 years, we provide this industry-focused program that's the best option for hospitality businesses in the long term. If chasing rate's your goal, we'll welcome you back when you realize the personal service our LRA team provides, coupled with the reinvestment of any surplus SIF dollars directly in support of LRA advocacy, all works together for the benefit of the industry. Our fund renews January 1st each year, and we ask if you're not allowing us to write your business today, please allow us to provide a fast, no obligation quotation to you or through your agent. Our Self-Insurers Fund offers competitive rates, in-house claims handling, and complimentary safety services. This is an LRA program that needs your support as an LRA member and returns it to you year after year. One topic of late related to a member inquiry asking if an employee with COVID can receive workers' comp benefits if they believe it was contracted in the workplace. In Louisiana, the sole remedy for an injured worker is the workers' comp system, and historically, to be covered, it must result from an accident or injury or an occupational illness like mesothelioma. Just as it's hard to pinpoint where someone contracted a cold or the flu, we expect this will be tested in the administrative courts, but tough to prove. As for now, if you have a question, give us a call, and we'll connect you to the right LRA team member to assist you. Next, we'd like to talk about how we're using ServSafe to help our members. As the economy shut down in our state and restaurants in many states were closing, the LRA developed a set of reopening guidelines in consultation with the CDC and FDA that were shared with the Louisiana Department of Health and the state fire marshal as they developed Louisiana's Open Safely guidelines. The LRA developed a fast online staff training portal to provide COVID-required safety protocols called Thrive Louisiana. This free service met the Open Safely training requirement and was provided to any restaurant in our state free of charge. At every opportunity I have to meet, text, or speak with Governor Edwards or his senior staff, we remind them of the need for clarity and transparency in setting goalposts and our present benchmarks toward achieving them. None of us want to approach dealing with COVID-19 that places anyone at risk, including your team members or guests. And while Louisiana law provides for the authority for public health and other emergencies granted to the governor, it's doubtful the legislation ever contemplated this authority becoming how the state operates for an extended period without legislative input. The governor stated we may be in phase 3 indefinitely, and we've questioned him as to why. If we're following the reopening guidelines of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, if we're achieving the gating criteria, our economy should be opening more. Grocery stores, big box retailers, furniture, lawn and garden, and home improvement stores have been exploding their revenue during this crisis. We need the same opportunity. The industry, who's delivered a long-term track record of excellent food safety outcomes, should be trusted to carefully expand its capacity so that it can begin to recover. And we always remind them of the jobs you provide. We take all comers, second chance, third chance, or fourth chance, limited skills, inexperienced, changing pathways in life. We'll pay you, we'll train you, and we'll provide a path to make a great living and have a great future. One of the unseen challenges outside of the capacity restrictions is rebuilding guest confidence, that it's safe to dine out and return to their favorite restaurant. Through our partnership with the National Restaurant Association, we launched the Serve Safe Dining Commitment, which provides a set of industry-wide training and operating standards with third-party validation to build guest confidence. To promote the Serve Safe Dining Commitment, we launched a national advertising campaign dubbed Your Table's Ready. Savor the vibe you can only experience when you dine out at a restaurant. We'd like to play it for you now. We want to thank all of these national brands that provided the funding that allowed us to do this national buy. The Serve Safe Dining Commitment allows you to opt in to an easy-to-search, consumer-focused database of restaurants who have made the commitment. You can visit servesafecommit.org, servesafecommit.org to make the commitment. With a few easy steps, you can participate. The Serve Safe Dining Commitment is a great way to validate your support in operating safely. We'll provide you a dining commitment window cling to be displayed on your restaurant, at your bar, or on your website. Our LRA team has stayed active as you face the many challenges of this crisis. Early in phases 1 and 2, we supported members on how to deal with positive tests or exposure quarantine. These have helped us to develop the practices we follow today. To operate safely, restaurants are spending more on PPE, staff training, safety, hygiene, and sanitation. The COVID crisis has illustrated that our industry can innovate and adapt quickly. We hope you'll consider participating and joining the Serve Safe Dining Commitment. And now a brief update on the LRA's Education Foundation. We're pleased to announce a new program with the National Restaurant Association Educational Foundation, which I'm fortunate enough to chair this year, that expands registered apprenticeship for new and current restaurant and food service employees, providing the opportunity to advance their careers and move into higher paying opportunities. Funded by the U.S. Department of Labor, apprenticeship is a win-win for both the employee and their company. The LRA Education Foundation has expanded its programs to include a restaurant youth apprenticeship statewide. David Eamon is our new program manager, and you can join an apprenticeship accelerator meeting with members across the state to learn how you might benefit from an apprenticeship program in your operation. Apprenticeship is nothing more than applying your current training process into the structure of an apprenticeship. Building and industrial trades have used this funding and apprenticeship programs for years to train and prepare their workforce. Apprentices participate in a competency-based program involving on-the-job training and traditional classroom work. And any size restaurant can participate. And we handle the documentation with the NRAEF. The best data that I can share is nationally, those industry workers who have completed one of our restaurant registered apprenticeship programs have a retention level of just over 90%. And now, our upcoming programs. In October, we'll unveil 2 How to University programs. The first is October 14th with How to Control Costs, led by Greater New Orleans Chapter President and Certified Public Accountant, Patrick Groth. And a few of our LRA directors will chime in to help you understand how to adapt your menu, pricing, and labor budgets, and how this can help you operate efficiently in these uncertain times. As we've noted, due to the COVID restrictions in New Orleans, we could not hold this year's LRA Showcase in August. To build on our community, share ideas and information, we're hosting a new virtual program called LRA Live, Reconnecting Our Industry. This event will be November 11th and 12th. The program will include informational sessions from industry experts, and LRA associate members are encouraged to present to participants through brand experience opportunities. The cost to register to participate for LRA members is free. We have sponsorships and brand experience opportunities available. Look for more information on LRA Live starting tomorrow in the LRA Snapshot e-newsletter, and check our website regularly. We have a few minutes to answer any questions. If you have anything, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. All right, we don't see any of those. So in closing, please remember that our website, LRA.org, that's LRA.org, is your 24/7 resource with updated industry-specific information on COVID, Hurricane Laura recovery, Serve Safe, including how you can be part of the dining commitment, the LRA Self-Insurance Fund, the LRA Education Foundation, and so much more. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn for important news, member updates, and shout-outs. In a time where our restaurant and hospitality-driven economy is battered by COVID, hurricanes, and the challenges of an economy that's forced reduced capacity for so many in our industry, please know our LRA team is here to help you. We've tightened our belts too and right-sized our operation as well. Our LRA team can provide answers on an array of industry-specific topics. Don't spend your time trying to Google to find information. Just call, email, or visit the LRA website. Our mission is focused on serving you, and we'll continue to work towards this end to continue to be your advocate. Remember to send your comments about today's program or suggestions for future topics to cover to communications@LRA.org. Give us a call at the LRA office in Metairie at 504-454-2277. Thanks for joining us for this inaugural LRA Today. We hope you agree it's a great way to help us stay connected when we're challenged to host in-person meetings. We hope you found it helpful. We'll be announcing our next LRA Today event and its topics next month. Until then, this is Stan Harris. Be well.